Welcome back, y'all. This is Isaac from the Andy's Nerd Media, back on the couch with another wrestling review. Today is Monday, March 17th, 2025, St. Patrick's Day. And tonight, Monday Night Raw was coming to us from Brussels, Belgium. So let's get into it. Okay, so we started the night off with the long awaited return of John Cena. This was his first appearance on TV since the Elimination Chamber. And he came out and he tried to explain himself and give reasons for his actions. But tonight, the Brussels crowd, they were just like the other crowd so far on the European tour. They were loud, they were energetic, they were passionate, and they were chanting basically from the moment the show started. When Cena came out, he just let them boo for like a good 4 or 5 minutes before he even spoke or said a word. And some of the chants, like they were explicit, like they were saying, "F you Cena" or "Shut the F up." So the crowd, they were really hot tonight. And Cena, to his credit, he stood there and took it and waited until he finally started to get into his promo. So the promo itself, I thought was very strong. A lot of us as wrestling fans, this is something that we never thought that we'd see is John Cena cutting a heel promo, but you could tell this was something that he was very excited about and he was leaning all the way in on being the bad guy, calling the fans idiots or calling them bad people, saying that they never really rocked with him and that they just took from him and never gave. So you can see that this is something that he really wanted to do, and I'm glad that he's finally getting this opportunity. He was feeding off of the crowd, off of their energy, and even though he got a little bit repetitive towards the end, I think it still was a very strong first promo. So I'm very excited to see where this goes. Like I said, as longtime wrestling fans, we've been waiting to see something like this with John Cena for like over 2 decades now. So to see him fully go heel is just a very surreal moment. And then after that, Cody Rhodes came out and just like he's been lately, he was very succinct, very to the point. He called John Cena out, just said like, "Look, the guy that I want to face is John Cena, and this isn't John Cena. Whoever this is in the ring, this isn't that guy." So I hope that guy shows up at WrestleMania. So that was a very strong promo from Cody. He got in, he got out. They didn't really get into any altercations or anything. So I think this was a very strong promo and opening segment for the night. So very strong start to the show. Okay, so the first actual match of the night was Penta versus Ludwig Kaiser. And honestly, I'm not really excited about these two fighting each other again. I feel like this is like the third or fourth time with them going against each other since Penta made his debut. And I just feel like with Penta, this is somebody who a lot of fans were excited to see and kind of have like these dream matches that they wanted to see against him and other opponents. And so far, it's just been a lot of him fighting Ludwig Kaiser or Pete Dunne. And even though tonight's match was a no holds barred match, so it's a little bit different stipulation, and they got to go like a little bit more hardcore with it. Eventually, I would like to see Penta move on to other opponents, but tonight's match was pretty good. It was a good start, and they had weapons. They utilized the chairs throughout the match. They had a couple of big spots in, and they let Ludwig Kaiser look very strong throughout. Kind of working Penta with a lot of holds and kind of draining him throughout the match. But ultimately, Penta got the win, and then he announced that he wants to go after the Intercontinental belt, which I find is an interesting direction for him, considering that Braun Breaker is the holder of that belt. So I think that would be an interesting matchup, just style wise, having a luchador against somebody like Braun Breaker, who is just like total speed and power. So it'll be interesting to see if they actually put Penta in the IC title picture this fast, or if they kind of slow down and find him somebody else to fight. But I do think it's kind of interesting that they let him already put his name in that title picture. The next match of the night was Dakota Kai versus Ivy Now, and unfortunately for them, they didn't get a lot of time to really work. I feel like this is in contrast to a lot of the matches we've been having on Raw and SmackDown lately, where the matches have had longer run times and a lot more time for the wrestlers to work. But tonight, Ivy and Dakota kind of got the short end of the stick, which Really sucks because I think both of those are strong competitors in the ring, and I think they have good chemistry, but didn't really get a chance to show it off here. So I would like to see more from them on this match, but I think they did pretty well with the time that they had. But yeah, it wasn't really a lot to go on. Dakota Kai picked up the win, which is good for her. Gives her a little bit of momentum going in to WrestleMania. But I feel like Ivy now, she's had a few losses in a row now, and I just don't know if they know what to really do with her right now. So hopefully they'll get more time to work in their future matches. But yeah, this match was very short and very hard to really get into. So we also had a backstage segment with the Judgment Day, and you had Finn Balor and Dirty Dom talking, and Finn kind of being grateful to Dom for getting him the IC title match. But then things kind of flipped when he learned that Dom wanted to add a new member to the Judgment Day, and that person was Penta, who Finn Balor felt like was going after the IC title that he planned to win tonight. So obviously, Finn Balor was upset. Him and Dirty Dom got into an argument. And honestly, I don't know what they're doing with the Judgment Day. I feel like they either need to break the Judgment Day up or they need to show them being more united and putting on a strong front because they've been kind of teasing a breakup between Dom and Finn Balor for a while now, but they haven't actually pulled the trigger on it. So they're just kind of always arguing back and forth. But I feel like it makes the group look a little bit weak. Of course, JD McDonough is out. Carlito was kind of useless. He's just there to basically help interfere in matches, but he doesn't really wrestle a lot anymore. They did get a little bit of life when Raquel Rodriguez joined, but I feel like the Judgment Day doesn't have that same bite and that same strength that they had when Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley were in the group. And even though they did look a little bit strong when they first kicked Damian and Rhea out, and you had Finn and JD with the tag belts, and you had Dom with a belt, and you had Liv Morgan as the Women's World Champion. Now they kind of feel like they're floundering a little bit. So I'd like to see them either break the Judgment Day up completely and let them go their separate ways, or kind of have them stop fighting and be more united and put on a stronger front because I do think that wrestling is better when you have a few strong factions, and the Judgment Day were one of those. So hopefully they could get back to that, or either they can just break up and let everybody move on. Okay, so we also had a segment where Bianca Belair and Io Sky came out with General Manager Adam Pearce to sign their contract for their WrestleMania match. And if you've ever watched any contract signing on WWE, you knew what was going to happen next. Rhea Ripley came out and predictably she wanted to insert herself into the match. And she gets into an altercation with Bianca and Io, and just like last time, they were very disrespectful to Io, who came out at the beginning of the segment and said that she wouldn't allow herself to be disrespected again because she is the WWE Women's Champion, and she does have a point. So when Bianca like smushed her in the face again, she retaliated. Rhea retaliated and ended up powerbombing Io on top of Bianca. And then later on, we see them get into another altercation backstage where Adam Pearce is talking to Rhea. She took the contract and signed it herself, and basically was like, "I signed the contract, so you got to put me in the match." I don't know. She knows how like legal contracts work, but I don't think that's how it works. But I do think it's an interesting way for them to go about, I guess, building up to a triple threat match. Is not really what I was expecting. It feels like they're doing like a last minute swerve to make this a triple threat. I don't know why they would take the belt off of Rhea if they were going to do it this way and have Io win it just to put Rhea back in the match when she was already the champion. So it's a little bit weird, but I like all three competitors, so I'll just roll with it. It won't be a bad match either way. So I do feel like they should have just had it be one on one just because like you have more of a spotlight on those two individuals, but I'm not gonna be mad if they add Rhea into this match because I love Rhea Ripley, so I can't really hate on it. So next match we had Jay Uso versus Austin Theory, which Ended up being a squash match. Jay won in a couple of seconds with a crossbody, which is weird because it wasn't even his finisher. And it made Austin Theory look very weak to lose the match in a couple of seconds to Jay Uso. Honestly, I don't know what they're doing with Austin Theory. Um, he's a really talented wrestler. I think that his character does need some work, but he's pretty strong on the mic, and he's one of the better wrestlers in the ring that they have. So having him lose in a squash match to Jay Uso just felt like a waste. Honestly, the whole segment felt like a waste. You had Jay who had a very bad botch trying to dive over the top of the ring to Austin Theory and Grayson Waller. It just didn't look clean. He's been a little bit sloppy lately, and I love Jey Uso. I'm excited for him in WrestleMania, but he definitely needs to tighten up as far as his moves in the ring and his work on the mic. I feel like he's kind of getting into like a lot of the repetitive, saying the same things in his promos. So hopefully they can find a better way to utilize him going into WrestleMania. They had Gunther come out again and try to attack him, but this time Jay was able to fight back a little bit. So that was a little bit of a better move for him going forward. But yeah, ultimately this whole match and segment was just a waste of time, and they definitely need to utilize those wrestlers better. So the next actual match featured the Creed brothers versus the LWO. The LWO, which was Dragon Lee and Rey Mysterio, they had a lot of crowd support behind them, so they added a lot to the match. And I feel like they've been one of the better tag teams recently when they've wrestled. So the Creed brothers, they're always strong in the ring as well. So I think this is one of the better matches of the night. We ended up having the LWO pick up the win with Rey Mysterio getting the hot tag and the crowd going crazy. And then after the match, we had the masked luchador, who we know is Chad Gable, come out and attack the LWO, and then he kind of scurried out of the ring. I love the direction that they're going with Chad Gable. I think he's just naturally funny. Him being this luchador, who's obviously him, but supposed to be mysterious, it's added like a little bit of comedic value. I just like Chad Gable in general. I think that he's just like naturally funny, and of course, like he's one of the top tier wrestlers in the business. So, um, hopefully, this all pays off. But I do like the little spots that they've been using him in with this kind of luchador storyline. After that, we had Seth Rollins come out and address the crowd, and it was a pretty much standard promo from Seth. He let the crowd sing his song for an extended amount of time, which was a little bit annoying, but Seth Rollins is Seth Rollins, so he's kind of earned that right to bask in the glory of his fans. But yeah, it was pretty much a standard promo, calling out Roman Reigns, calling out CM Punk, saying that he's going to see them next week. And I feel like the crowd, they started to boo when he mentioned that. And I think it's fair for them to feel like they're getting cheated. Like, I don't like this trend in WWE where you have a wrestler come out and talk about a feud or people that he's going to see on next week's show in front of the crowd who's there and paid their money and saying, yeah, the guys that you want to see aren't here tonight, but next week they'll be there. And then especially in a situation like this where it's two totally different countries, like I can see why anyone who's in that crowd would be upset. Like they want to see CM Punk and Roman Reigns. They don't want to hear that, oh, you're going to address them next week. So I do think that trend needs to go away. If the wrestlers aren't there, like you could kind of set it up for the next week, but you don't want to have the wrestlers in the ring just kind of pointing out that fact that, hey, the guys that you want to see are not here tonight. So I think they need to move away from that. But yeah, this is pretty much standard cut and dry promo with Seth Rollins, and they got in and out very quickly. Okay, and lastly, for the main event of Raw, we had Intercontinental Championship match between Braun Breaker and Finn Balor. This was an interesting matchup. Like I said earlier, you had Braun Breaker, who is just like all power and speed and ferocity, versus Finn Balor, somebody who's more cerebral. uses more agility and quickness, and seeing those styles clash together was a fun matchup. And I think that they were smart to highlight Finn Balor and his accomplishments before the match. And, they were calling him Grand Slam Finn and pointing out that he is a Grand Slam champion, which means that he's won all the major WWE championships. So I think it was smart of them to play up on that and to show that he was a credible and legit threat to Braun Breaker. And the match was a pretty good match. I think they did well with the time that they had. I think Finn Balor did make a good showing for himself. He took Braun Breaker to his limit. And of course, you had the Judgment Day come out and get involved. But unfortunately for Finn, it wasn't enough. Braun Breaker did what Braun Breaker does. He ended up beating up the Judgment Day and also beating Finn Balor in the end. But they did make him work for it. There was a couple of spots where Finn really countered Braun Breaker. A lot of his more dangerous moves Finn was ready for and was able to reverse them. And so you can see that he had his game plan well scouted and actually did put on a tough match. But Braun Breaker came through in the end. And then at the end of the match, Penta came out after the Judgment Day came in and they were trying to beat down Braun. Penta did come out for the save and help Braun Breaker out, but he also held up his championship belt and just let him know that I'm coming for this. So I think that's an interesting move by them, like putting Penta in that scene. So we'll see if that's something that they're going with for next week on Raw, or if that's something they're going with for WrestleMania. But either way, it was a pretty good match overall. I think the show, I would give it a 3.5 out of 5. I think last week's episode was a little bit higher up. This was still a solid Monday night show, but I do think that the lack of long matches this week, you had a bunch of matches that were very quick and wrapped up very shortly. I think that hurts the score a little bit. You always want to give the wrestlers more time in the ring to get a good match in and tell a good story. So I feel like we were a little bit shortchanged this week, but the matches we did get were pretty good. And of course, you had the return of John Cena. So that was a big moment, and you had a great crowd, and you had several big moments. So still a solid show overall, but definitely not as high as last week's. Hopefully they'll keep this momentum going forward and come out with a better show next week, but I'm looking forward to it either way.